Hello everyone and welcome to another Learn Scratch tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be making a clone of the 1973 Atari classic Space Race. Really simple game, shouldn't take too long to program. All you've got, two-player game. The idea is you're going to get to the top of the screen without hitting the asteroids. Every time you do you get a point. Every time you don't, you crash into an asteroid, you lose a point. First person to 9 points, or until the timer, as you can see the timer here, until the timer runs out. Okay, good stuff. Okay, let's get going. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create ourselves a new Scratch project. So click on Create and make sure that you're signed in to Scratch. And we'll get rid of Scratch the Cat because we don't need Scratch today. And let's do the backdrop. So we click on backdrop. We want to change this all to black. So we're going to convert to bitmap because it makes it a bit easier to do that. Click on the paint bucket tool and drag your brightness down to 0, which when you click on the background, there we go. So now we've got the black background. We now need the white bar down the middle. We're going to do that with vector. Click on convert to vector because it's easiest. Click on the rectangle tool, change your fill, 100% brightness, 0% saturation, and that will give you white. And then we'll just draw a nice line there. That's a little bit thick, so let's make it a little bit thinner. And then if you want to make sure that it's right in the center of the screen, just zoom in a bit, click on it. Oh no, don't do that. Let's undo that. Don't do that, whatever I just did. If you want to make sure it's right in the center of the screen, click on the select tool, click on it, and then you can see the middle of it there if you zoom in. And if you come close to the center, you'll see it sort of snaps to the center point there. So now you know that that line is dead center on the screen. Good. Excellent. So once that's done, we'll just go back to code. That's all done. And now we need to create our spaceship. If you don't want to create your own spaceship, then just go to choose a sprite and choose one of the inbuilt sprites. Or you can, I will put a link in the description in the YouTube video for a link to download the sprite that I create. But because I'm trying to stick to the retro theme, I'm going to make it using a pixel sprite creator. So I'm going to go to Piskel app, click create sprite, and I'm going to create my own. So to do that, really simple, change that black to white. Oh, good. And now if you left click, you'll add a pixel. If you right click, you'll delete a pixel. So let's just do a very simple rocket. Come across to here, down to there, and just make it go across there like that. Oops. 1, 2, 3. We'll come right the way back there. That's looking more like it. We'll fill all this in. I'll do a solid rocket for this one, rather than doing a transparent one. The original one is like an outline, but for the actual game. But I'll do a solid one. Makes it a little bit easier to work with in Scratch. And we'll do little booster rockets here at the bottom. Is that right? 1, 2. Oh no, I need to go across one though. There you go. So there's my rocket. I'm going to stick with that. Nice and simple. Once I've done that, I'm going to click on Export. I've set my scale to 2. You don't have to, but I've just found that really works. Click on Download. And now our rocket is ready to upload. So we'll go back to our project, upload sprite, choose the rocket that you've just created in your downloads, and there it should be in the center of the screen. So we want the player 1 to start down on the bottom left of the screen here. So we'll just drag him to the bottom. And in doing so, what it's also done is it's also changed this go-to block here to the coordinates of where he's now at. So we're going to use this go-to block now so that at the start of the game, we'll set him to go to the bottom left. Just like that. There you go. We'll change the y coordinates to -160 as well. So it's right down the bottom. There you go. Right at the bottom. Good. So now our player's at the bottom of the screen. We now need to get him so that we can move him up, down, left, and right. So for the moment, we'll use a forever loop. And we're going to use an if statement for the up. So if we press up, then we're going to go up. Now up key for player 1, I'm using the WASD keys, kind of standard first person shooter. So W is up. So when I press W, I want him to go up. How do I make him go up? Well, Scratch works on coordinate systems, so just like maths, isn't it? At the start of the bottom down here is minus coordinates, these are plus coordinates, and the y axis here is up and down. So if you change his y coordinate, you're going to make him move up a bit. So you can say, okay, let's change his y coordinate. I'm going to set it to 4 because I found that was a good sort of amount. And now if I click start and I press W, there we go, he goes up. Cool, brilliant. We can right click and we can duplicate that, and we'll do the down key, which down is S. Now in order to go down, we need to change his coordinates by a -4 each time. So now we start up, down. Perfect, good. So there he goes up and he goes down. And we could do a similar thing here now for the left and the right. But we're not changing the y coordinate this time. We're going to change the x coordinate. So if we press A, that needs to move left. A will move left. And then if we press D, we move right, which will be +4. Good. +4. Excellent. So now if we press start, left, right, up, down. Perfect. So we're getting there. We've already got the sprite moving. Got one slight glitch in that if you press start, player 1's screen should be here. This is player 2's. So at the moment, player 1 can go onto player 2's side. We don't really want that. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we're only going to move to the right-hand side and go right if our x coordinate is less than a certain value. And the way we can do that is we can use an and we say, okay, if we press the right key, which is D, and our coordinates are less than a certain amount, let's try -30 or something, then we'll move right. So if our x position is less than -30 and our D is pressed, then we can go right. Let's try that. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? That's more like it. Good. Excellent. So now we've got the player moving up and down, which is perfect. Now we want to do is we want to add in some asteroids. So what we're going to do with the asteroid, we're just going to paint the asteroid because they're just little circles. So click paint, click on the circle, make sure your fill is white, brightness 100%, and then we'll just draw a little circle. I'll probably zoom in a bit actually as well, so it makes it a bit, oh, we don't want an outline, so let's just change that to 0. What we do want is a little circle, and we want it quite small. So what we can do is when you're creating it, in fact, let me show you that now actually when we're doing the circle. When you're creating your circle, the best way to ensure that it's a perfect circle is to hold control whilst you're creating it. And that will force it into a circle rather than, it could be like an oblong. Let's select it. And we'll just move it over the center point here, that dot. It probably don't need that, but we'll do that just in case, because then we know exactly where it's going to be if we change its coordinates. Good, so we've got an asteroid. Let's rename that to asteroids. We know what it is, and let's rename that one to player 1. So at the start of the game, what we want the asteroid to do is we want like 15, 20 of them, however many, to appear. Some to start on the left and move right, and some to start on the right and move left. So the way we can do that, and we want it kind of to be random, so we go onto our asteroid and we say, okay, when we start, we want to create, let's say, create 15 clones of myself. But before we create them, we'll just hide because we don't want them appearing before we put them in the right place. So at the start, we'll hide, and then we'll create 15 clones of myself. Good. And then when I start as a clone, we need to pick a random left or right side. And with random, the only way we can get random in Scratch is using this random 1 to something. So it's a random number. So rather than do left or right, we're just going to pick a random number between 0 and 1. And we'll say, okay, if our random number equals 1, we'll start on the left. Otherwise, we'll start on the right. We can use this if else here. So when I start as a clone, there we go. Let's just move that over there a bit. let's say number 1 will start on the left. So in order to start on the left, we change his x coordinate to be right on the left, which is all the way to the left, minus 240. There you go, so we're going to start right all the way on the left, minus 240. We need to pick a random place to start on the y-axis between kind of minus 150 and plus 180. So we can do that. We'll just set the y-coordinate to be somewhere between minus 100 and, let's say 150 and plus 180. So it'll appear up this bit. Good. And then what we'll do is we'll just keep moving them. If they're on the left, they need to keep going to the right until they touch the right-hand side, which is quite simple to do. All we do is we do a repeat until our x coordinate is greater than, let's say, 170 or something. Repeat until our x coordinate is greater than 170. And all we need to repeat is change our x by, let's change it by 3 or something so it goes quite slowly. Good. So repeat until x position is all the way over there. Good. And let's just try that. There you go. And it goes all the way over. And then what do we want to do when it gets to the end? Oh, not 170. Hang on a minute. It needs to go all the way over, 235, because it's 240 on those ones. And then when it gets to the end, all we wanted to do really is to then start all over again and pick another random place to start, either left or right. So what we can do there is we'll just put it inside of a loop. Repeat forever. So now if he starts on the left, that will keep repeating. But what we'll need to do is we need to duplicate all this and do the same for the right-hand side. So if he's on the right-hand side, that'll be plus 240. That's okay. And then this time we need to do it the other way around, where we're waiting until he's less than, keep repeating until he's less than minus 235. Minus 235. And this time we don't move right, so we need to do minus 3. So hopefully now, if I click start, oh, one more small problem. Of course, I've hidden it when we start here and we create the clones. Of course, we don't really want the them to be hidden all the time. We want them to show. There we go. And now you can see they should now. There we go. Perfect. So they're starting at the left and they're making their way to the right. And then once they get there, they kind of try and do it all over again. There's a slight problem in that, as you can see, they all start at the same time, which is great for a player because it's nice and easy. Look, we'll just zoom straight through, but it's not going to make for a very challenging game, is it? So what we need to do there is we need to say, okay, let's not all start at the same time. And the way we do that is, that's really, really simple. When we start as a clone, we'll just make them wait when we first start, a random amount of time. So wait, and let's say somewhere between, now let's say we want to pick somewhere between 0 and 2 seconds to wait, or 0 and 3 seconds. We can't say, 0 to 3, because then it's either going to do 0 seconds or 1 second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds. That's no good. So we need to do it in smaller amounts. And the way we do that is we just sort of trick it. We say, okay, give us a random number between 1 and 10, and then divide that by 3. And that hopefully will give us more. It will give us 10 different possibilities, anywhere between 0 and 3 or thereabouts. Let's have a look. Let's see if that works. That's looking a bit more like it, isn't it? There you go. That's much better. Again, you can tweak these figures, tweak all those ones until you get it right, or you can add more asteroids. Let's add some more asteroids. Again, you just play with it until you've got, the kind of density of number of things that you want. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's probably about right, isn't it? Yep, good. 1 to 20. Let's try 25 maybe. There we are. 25 asteroids. There we go. Good. They all seem to be going over those sorts of things. Again, have a play with it. Maybe make them move a bit faster, get more random. But have a play with it, see how it goes. So now we've got the asteroids moving across the field. I might tweak that and make them move a bit longer. let's say divide that by 2. Let's see how that goes. How's that looking? That's probably more like it. That's better kind of distribution, isn't it? Good. Okay, so now we've got the asteroids moving across the screen. It's a little bit low at the bottom there, so maybe let's change that y coordinate to a little bit higher, maybe minus 140. Otherwise the players will die right at the start, minus 140. Good. So now we're moving, we've got asteroids coming along. What we want to do now is we want to say, okay, when the player goes up, if they hit an asteroid, we need to go back to the start, which is here, and they need to lose a point if their score is greater than 0. So how do we say if we're touching an asteroid? Well, that's really easy. We just go back to the player and we just say, okay, if we're touching the asteroid. I have an asteroid, thank you. There we go. Okay, so if we are touching an asteroid, then we need to go back to the start. Now going back to the start, that's actually quite easy because we can just use a copy of this go to there. But we're just dragging back to the start and we'll just go to motion and go back to the start. Good, so you'll go back to the start. What he also wants to do is he needs to lose a point, a score. However, we need to first keep track of the score. So we need to go to variables. Let's make a variable and let's call this player 1 score. Good. And at the start of the game, player 1 needs to get a score of 0. So he starts the game with 0. And then if we touch the asteroid, if his score is greater than 0, then we need to lose a point. So if, oh no, it's inside of there, isn't it? If the player's score is greater than 0, then we change the score by -1. The reason it needs to be 0, because otherwise they'll end up going into negative score, which is no good. So now what we've got, oh, no, yeah, that's right, that's okay. So if the player's score is greater than 0, we change it down by -1. What we also need to say now is that if we get to the top of the screen and we haven't touched an asteroid, then we need to go back down to the bottom again as well, but this time we gain a point. So it's a similar sort of thing now. What we say is, okay, if, there we go, if our x-coordinate is greater than, not x-coordinate, y-coordinate, because that's the top of the screen. If our y-coordinate is greater than 170, which is all the way up at the top, then we know we've got to the top. So now we need to change our score by 1. And so if our y position is greater than plus 170 this time. If our y position is greater than 170, change our score by 1. And we'll also go back down to the bottom. Go to, yeah, good. So let's try that now. So we go, so we can start. Oops, let's see if we can get all the way up to the top. Hey, there you go. Player 1's just scored 1 point. Let's see if we can get another point. 2 points. And then if he crashes, he should go back down to the bottom. There he is, goes all the way back down to the bottom and he gets 0 points. Good. Excellent. Good. So we've got the basic mechanics of the game sorted there. And we can almost ready to create another player, really. In fact, let's have a go. Let's add player 2. So what we'll do, let's have a look. In fact, no, we'll leave player 2 for the moment until we've got everything else sorted. Okay, so now we've got the basic scoring and we've got the asteroids moving. Now what we want to do is we want to create these bits here where it displays the score on the screen. So rather than just having it displayed in the Scratch variables thing here, let's create an actual counter that can count from 0 to 9. So we need to create ourselves a new sprite and we need to this time paint a sprite. So click on paint, click on text. Let's change it to pixel mode because that's pretty cool. And then we'll just click in here and let's create the first number, which is 0. And we'll just zoom in a bit. Make it the size that you want it. I think that's probably maybe a little bit big, but we're getting closer. Make it the kind of size that you want it, and then put it right in the center of there. Again, just good practice. And then drag that over there. And this is going to be player one scoreboard. Player one scoreboard. Good. So player one score, and at the moment is set to 0. And what we've got here is, we'll just do 0. There you go. In fact, no, we'll call that 1. This is costume number 1, even though it's 0. And I'm going to talk about why that is in a minute. The reason is the first costume that we have, we're going to display is 0. And then every time they gain a point, we're going to go to the next costume. We're going to keep going up. We'll show you how it works in a minute. It's quite simple. So now we need to do is we need to create all of the different scores between 0 and 9. So we'll just duplicate the costume, double click, we'll change that to 1. Try again, duplicate costume, double click 2, go all the way through until you get 3, duplicate all the way through until you get to 9. So we'll just do that, duplicate, won't take long, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure they're in the right order as well, otherwise it'll all go wrong. There you go, good. So now we've got letters from numbers from 1 to 9, sorry, from 0 to 9. But if you notice the costume numbers here, they start at 1. Scratch doesn't start counting from 0, so we've got a slight issue there, but we can deal with that. So we have to just remember that whatever score we get, whatever score the player has, we need to change that slightly so that we can display the right costume. And the way we do that now on the player one scoreboard, really, really easy. You know, when we display the score, all we're going to do is we're going to put in a little loop, a little forever loop, because it's really simple. It's only got one job. And we're going to change the costume. And you notice how the costumes here go from 1 to 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, I just want you to display whatever the player's score is plus 1. That will then display the right amount. Player score plus 1. Good. There you go. So now we press start. You can see that it's displaying 0. And now if you go here, hey, there you go. It's changed to 1. And what we'll do is we'll hide the player one score there so we can now see it. And it's gone back to 0. So we're probably going to have to tweak that where the asteroids start, because here they're starting quite low and they keep hitting my rocket. Okay, good. Now, this is going to keep checking, and it's going to check like 1,000 times per second. We don't really need to have it checking that much because it's going to use a lot of processor power. So we'll just wait 0.1 seconds and we'll only change it 10 times a second. So that'll reduce the processing power we need to actually deal with that. Good. So now we've got the player, we've got the score. Now what we can do is we can do this countdown timer here. And what we want it to do is start at the top, white, and then go down, 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 down. And as soon as it gets to the bottom, then we end the game. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to cheat, basically. We're going to do a nice little thing. Go to Paint. And now what we're going to do is create ourselves a square and set the brightness to 0 and make sure it's black. And then just do a little square. It doesn't really matter how big the square is, but it's just got to be black. And what we'll do, we'll zoom in and make sure that it's sat dead center. Good. Good. Now our square is there at the moment. What I'll do temporarily is we'll just change his color. Click onto the square, change his color to red or something. There we go. And moving right up to top middle. Right up to there. There we go. We're getting right out of the way. And now we'll change him down to black again, so we know where he's at. Good. In fact, actually, probably didn't need to do that, but it doesn't matter. So at the start of the game, what we need to do is we need to get this sprite, which is the timer. That's the timer, and get him all the way to the top of the screen. So if we go to X and Y coordinates, where are we at? Go to right at the start. X is going to be 0, and his Y is going to be 180. Let's do 200. Let's try and get to 200. There we go. 210. No, we won't move any further up. Okay, we'll cheat. What we'll do is this. Go to costumes. I remember how I did this. Just move it there. There we go. That's more like it. Good. So notice how the center of the costume is right at the just at the bottom there of the black thing, and that will allow you to move him up to the top. Because Scratch doesn't let you put sprites off the screen, so you have to kind of cheat a bit. Good. So we've moved him right to the top, which is perfect. Perfect. There we go. And then what we need to do is we need to get that sprite slowly moving down the screen. So again, same as we've done before, repeat until we get to the, this time we're going to repeat until we get to the bottom, until our Y value is less than minus 180. Let's have a look. So return to our minus less than, let's do minus 200. Oh no, minus 180. I don't think it'll let me do 200. Let's have a go. Repeat until our Y position is less than minus 180. And all we'll do is we'll keep moving him down. So change Y by, let's do minus 4. Good. So now if we click start, you can see, there you go, he's going down. But that's way too fast. So what we'll do is we'll add a bit of a delay. Again, just like we did with the, what's that other thing called? The scorecard thing. There you go. So it's almost getting there now. Let's do minus 2. You want it something taking about maybe a minute to get down. Again, you can tweak that. That's probably about right, maybe. Let's do 0.05, 0.07 or something. Again, you can play with the values as much as you like. So now we've got this bit moving down, which is okay, but really what we want it to do is we want the line to kind of disappear from the top. And the way we do that is we use the stamp tool, which is really, really cool. So, but we need to bring that in with the paint. So click on the extensions and click on pen. And now we've got the pen tools. And at the start of the game here, what we do is we erase everything. And then every time we move down, all we do is we stamp. And that should stamp over this white background. Let's have a look. There you go. Perfect. Good. That's definitely moving too quickly. So we'll just do minus 1. There we go. Brilliant. So all it's doing is it's basically whatever sprite we've got, which in this case is a black sprite, all it does is it moves every kind of whatever time per second, and it stamps a copy of whatever it is, its costume, onto the background, which is a little cheating way of getting rid of the white line which is on the background. So, but it does create our little bar that goes down. So now we've got the bar that goes down, and we've got our spaceship, which is good. Now we need to create our really annoying music. So in order to create the music, what we're going to do is we're going to use sounds. And we need to say, okay, when the game starts, we're going to keep playing this really annoying beeping sound. So we need to pick our sound. So go to sounds. Now I worked really, really hard to get this annoying beeping sound just right. Let me play you it. You can hear that. Okay, so that's about as close as I could get to the original game. So this is as close as I can get. If you can mess with it and get closer, by all means, good luck. But that was the closest I could get. And the way I found that is I went to choose sound, and I went to notes, and I looked and I found the C electric bass, this one. You can probably just about hear. Let me just turn my sound up a bit. There we go. And I've got the C electric bass. I'll just get rid of, in fact, I'll leave that pop for the moment. C electric bass, that's the best I can do. Okay, now the sound needs to change its pitch the further up you go up the screen. So it needs to go like beep, 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 beep. So it needs to have some relationship between the pitch and what your rocket is, where your Y coordinate of the rocket is. So what we need to do is we need to find a way of doing that. And it's really simple because the pitch can go somewhere between sort of 20 and 60. So we need to start at about 20 and then it needs to go up to 60 depending on your position. So how do we do that? Well, we know that the player starts at the bottom of the screen, and we know that the player's position is minus 170. So we don't want it to start the offset at minus 170. We want it to start it at 0, because then here is kind of don't change the note at all, start at whatever the start note is. So we need that to be 0. So we use a plus there. We take the player's y coordinate, and that now, if we start at the bottom, which is minus 170, this is at about 0. Well, it's minus 11, but it's about there, isn't it? So let's do plus 182 or something. There you go. There you go. So we're starting this offset now, as we're at the bottom, is 1. But then as we go up, it's going to go from 1 right up, from minus 170 to 170, so anywhere up to about 300 up. Now that's going to be way too much for our note, because we only want it to go between like 30 and 60. So what we need to do here is we need to just have a cheekier way of doing this. And the way we do that is we do a bit more maths. And we say, okay, let's put that in there. Oops. Take that, divide that by 2, and we'll add another offset after the result of that of plus 20. I don't know how I got to these numbers. I think I just messed about with it. Anyway, why have I done this weird bit of maths here? Well, let me show you. What we're going to do is, at the start of the game, we're going to keep playing this little thing that goes beep, 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 beep. So forever, we're going to play the note. So we go to sound, and we're going to play the sound, start the sound, which is this electric bass. But what we're going to do is we're going to change the pitch, set the pitch effect to this bit here. Let me just move that over. So now what it means is the pitch of this electric note, of this beep, 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 is going to change depending on how much we go up and down. Let me just show you that now. Let's see if that works. And we also need to wait, because we don't want to keep playing that note. We want to wait in between. I found this is the nearest I could get. There we go. Oops. Now we got a slight problem there, because I've put all of this code in the timer by accident. So now our beep, we've got the beep going, but he's going the wrong way round. Brilliant, because he's going with the timer, not the player. So we'll just drag that code into the player. And hopefully, hey, now our player's got it instead of the timer. So let's get rid of that. Take that out of the timer. So hopefully now, let's have a look. There's our player. Okay. Let's get rid of that. We need to swap that Y position of the player, because it'll be really confused. There you go. See if that works. Forever. Start sound electric bass. Why is that not working? I know why it's not working. So what we need to do here is just make sure, because it says C electric bass there, we need to add the right sound. Go back to sounds and make sure that you add C electric bass. C electric bass. Make sure you add that sprite back in there. Add that sound effect back in there. Let's have a look. There we go. Perfect. That's better. So now we've got it at the bottom of the screen. It plays the low notes. There you go. And it goes all the way through. Good. Excellent. Good. So we've got the player goes up and it plays this annoying sound as it goes up. Now what we need to do is we've got one player working. What we want to do now is we want to create a second player. So there's player one. We'll right click and we will duplicate. Oh, actually, no, before we do that, let's add a sound effect for if we crash. That would be a good one, isn't it? So let's add a quick sound effect. Click sounds and choose a sound. I'm going to do pop, I think. Is there a pop? Yeah, I'll do pop. I'm going to add pop. You can add whatever sound effect you want to do. So when they hit an asteroid, we're going to do a pop. So when I hit an asteroid, where's that one at? There you go. There you go. When I'm hitting out Asteroids, sound pop as well. That just saves me having to recode it on player 2. Let's just try that. There we go. Perfect. Ooh, brilliant. Good. Okay, so player 1's pretty much coded. That's all about done. What we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate player 1. So right-click, duplicate, and it's already called player 2. We're going to need to create a new variable called player 2 score. Make a variable player 2 score. And we'll set this time we'll set player 2 score to 0. And we just need to go through this script and alter all the little bits that we need to alter for player 2. So you'll start at the bottom, but we need to change that to plus 120, not minus 120, because we want it to appear on the right hand side. Player 2 is going to use the arrow keys. So what's that one? Up. So that'll be up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, right arrow. Good. Hopefully that should all work. Change. Okay. If touching the asteroid, change the player 2 score. Again, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going through and just changing all the bits now that apply to player 2 instead of player 1. Here, obviously, this one, you're going to need to change that one out so that it's... oh, no, that's not right. Not that one. Where's the one where he only moves right? The only other one we need to change is this one here, X position minus 30. That's the one that keeps player 1 on the left. So what we want to do is just swap that out for the similar thing for the X position on the right. But it's not the right arrow pressed, is it? It's going to be the left arrow pressed. So let's move that off there. If right arrow is pressed, yeah, then he can move as far right as he wants. But if the left arrow pressed on player 2, there we go. So if the left arrow is pressed and his X position is greater than 30, we'll let him move a bit to the left. Let's just try that now. So player 1's okay. Player 2, yeah, that's okay. Good. What we also do, that looks good. What we also need to do, if we'll just hide player 2 score, let's also get player 2 score appearing here as well. So we can right click on player 1 scoreboard, duplicate, and let's change that to player 2 scoreboard. And switch costume player 2 plus 1. There we go, good. Let's try that. Let's move that to the right location. Let's have a look. So hopefully now, player 1, when he moves up, oops. Let's see if we can... Yeah, player 1 gets a score. When player 2 moves up, player 2 hopefully gets a score. Oops, there you go. This is why we play. This is a bit of a glitch there. Also on player 2, just make sure that when he restarts, he goes back to the location that he needs to be in. So go to, when he goes back to that, that'll be 120, and that will also be 120 as well. Good. Good, okay. So we're getting closer now, aren't we? Let's have a look. Yep, goes back to the right position. When he goes over the top, whoa, let me up. There you go, it goes back as well, good. Okay, good. So all we need to do now, we've sorted all the entire game out. All we need to do now is do a game over screen and say who is going to win. So all we need to do now, where are we at? Timer. There's the timer. Repeat until when it gets to the bottom here, we're going to broadcast game over. So repeat until there, and then we'll just broadcast game over. So if the timer runs out, we'll broadcast game over. Game over. And also is if either of the players' score gets to 9, we'll also broadcast game over. So the way we can do that is we'll do that in the backdrop. The backdrop can look after that. So when start clicked, what we'll do is wait until either of these two players, wait until either player 1 or player 2, let me just make that a bit bigger, wait until player 1 score, where's player 1 score, or player 2 score, is greater than 9 or equals 9. There we go. So wait until player 1 score equals 9, or duplicate player 2 score equals 9. And then we'll also broadcast game over if either of those two. So we got two different triggers, possible triggers for game over. Either the timer runs out, in which case it's game over, or one of the two players gets to 9 points, in which case it's also game over. So what happens when we get to game over? Well, that's really, really simple. All we do is we change the backdrop from this backdrop to a new backdrop that tells us who wins. So we'll go to Paint and let's call this player 1 wins. And all we need to do is zoom out a bit. And we'll just put player 1 wins. Make that a bit bigger. Player 1 wins. We'll change that fill, change that brightness. There you go. Player 1 wins. But we'll also paint the backdrop as well. How can we do? Let's draw us. Yeah, we'll do that. Fill. Change that. Draw a big rectangle over the top and send that backwards. Player 1 wins. Perfect. Good. Player 1 wins. Okay. Good. So there's player 1 wins backdrop, and then we'll duplicate and we'll do a player 2 wins backdrop. Where's that at? In order to edit the text that you've already done, you need to click on the text tool, otherwise it won't let you do it. And then if you want to move that text, like my player 2 wins is just slightly out of alignment there. Good. Make that bigger as well so it covers the entire screen. There we are. I'll do that with yours as well. Good. So you got player 1 wins and player 2 wins. Let's change that to player 2 wins. So now you've got three possible backdrops. You've got the game screen, the player 1 wins, and the player 2 wins screen. At the start of the game, there's our backdrop here. At the start of the game, we need to set it so that the backdrop is the game screen. I've not renamed that. Let's call that game screen. Game screen. So at the start of the game, we'll set the backdrop to the game screen. Wait until there's either player 1 wins or player 2 wins. And then we'll broadcast game over. When I receive game over, well, there's a few things we need to do. When I receive game over, we need to change the backdrop to the one of who's won. So, yeah, this one. If actually, I've just realised it could have a draw, couldn't we? We better do that for that as well. Change the backdrop. Player 1 wins. Player 2 wins. Duplicate. Draw. In case they both get the same score. Because if the timer runs out and they both got the same score, so we've got three options there we need to do, and that's draw screen. Draw. So we've got three options. In order to check those three options, we need to say if player 1 wins, do this. Otherwise, if player 2 wins, do this. Otherwise, if player 3 wins, otherwise if it's a draw, then do that. So the way we can do that is we can do an if, elif, else in this setup. Make sure this if goes inside of this if, because it'll do if this, otherwise if this, otherwise do this. So how do we do that? Well, really, really simple. So if player 1 score is greater than player 2 score, then we know that player 1 has won. So we change the backdrop to player 1 wins. Otherwise, if player 2 score is greater than player 1 score, then we know that player 2 has won. Otherwise, all else fails, switch backdrop to draw. So when we receive game over, it's going to switch to one of those three, either player 1, player 2, or draw, which is okay. What we also need to do is we need to handle what happens when it switches. All of this lot is still going to be happening. I mean, we need to stop everything else, don't we? So we need to stop all the asteroids. Well, that's quite simple. All we do is when I receive game over, we just delete this clone. Good. And that'll get rid of all of the clones of the asteroids. Player 1, player 2. What we can do is when I receive game over, we'll just hide. And then we'll stop all of the scripts. So when I receive game over, hide, and we'll stop all the other scripts in this sprite so that they can't move the scripts in this sprite. We'll do that with player 2 as well. So what we'll do, that also means that at the start of the game, we're going to need to show for each of the players as well. At the start of the game, for each of the players, show. Good. Let's drag that onto player 2. When I receive game over, hide and do that. But also at the start of the game, show. Good. So the players, they hide. The players hide. The asteroids get destroyed. They stop. All we also need to do is maybe stop the timer as well in case one player wins. So the timer, if the timer, when I receive game over, all we want to do with the timer is just stop everything because we don't need to do anything else. So we'll just stop all the other scripts in this sprite. Good. So basically this one, if we receive game over, we'll stop that script there. Okay, let's try that. So let's just try the different possibilities. Let's try. Oh, actually, what I'll do is I'll cheat. Where's my asteroids? While I'm testing it, let's just repeat once. So we've only got one asteroid on the screen. Makes it easier for me to test. So 1, 2, 3. And you need to go through and test this player 1, make sure it's working, make sure it's playing player 2, 4. Maybe I should have changed to less than 9 points but for testing, but we'll keep going. 7, 8, and I'm hoping this will say player 1 wins. There we go, player 1 wins, good. So there's player 1, good, and that's if he gets to 9 points. And now what we'll do is we can just stand here and wait until the timer goes down, and let's see if the timer, let's just change that by -3 to make it do quicker. There we go. And we'll just try and change that. I've temporarily changed that to -3 to make the timer go quicker while we're testing. Let's see if that works. And it should say draw. Draw. Perfect. Good. A slight error here. You can see the draw got switched and it's still got this this stamping of the line there on the background. So when I receive switch over to this one here, we'll also clear all, erase everything when we get game over. So that'll get rid of that line in the center. Good. And we'll also now, while we're testing the timer, let's see if player 1 goes over. If player 1 gets more points, it should say player 1 wins when the timer goes down. Let's have a look. There you go, player 1 wins. There we go, perfect. Okie dokie, a little bit longer than I thought that tutorial would take, but it's a nice little game. Take it slowly. Okay, so that is Space Race. If you did like the tutorial, please feel free to like and subscribe. If you got any requests for tutorials or any suggestions, then just drop me a message on YouTube in the comments. Okie dokie, good luck scratching, and thank you very much.